Season 7, best season I'd ever seen. Season 8 comes in, tops it. I think season 9 is going to do it again because these episodes are just they're killer.
Okay, so I've seen the first 5 episodes of season 8. I thought it was really great. Episode 1 really stands out to me. The like Matrix idea. It just seems like a very high concept episode. Is there any prep? Because it's not just a normal Rick and Morty journey. Is there ever any prep going into a premiere or like a finale like episode 1 of this season?
In terms of what do you mean by by the prep?
Yeah, I guess more so like, is it like, hey, this is a big one, or hey, this episode's a little different? I mean, all of them are different, but that one to me, at least like watching the first 5, it really stands out of like they're really going for something, especially with Morty and Summer and like what they've been through and that kind of character arc.
Don't worry, everyone's counting on you. I think every episode has the potential when we first got those scripts to be the big one, and I think that's what's so exciting about this show is that, and it's especially just in terms of all the different kinds of fans of ours that are out there. There's certain episodes that really speak to people that might not be listed on a top 10 iconic episodes. And there's something for everybody in Rick and Morty, and so we, at least my perspective is, you have to treat every episode as though it could be the big one, and the one that breaks new ground, the ones that really gets to people that they're going to be talking about, because any episode really could be that.
Yeah.
So and we're also not really focused on, as we're recording it, what the reaction will be. So we got to focus on the characters, and as long as we do our job and bring ourselves to the roles, then when all the other components come together, hopefully, it's something that really speaks to people. But I agree with you that I think Charger was an excellent way to hit the ground running with season 8, and I think it's a great way for people who maybe haven't watched the show. If they want to get right into it, just start with that episode. You get pretty much everything, all the dynamics, and what the show is about if you were to jump in there. So I think it's a good example.
Yeah.
Yeah, because for us, we're just trying to tell a story. So if it's interesting that I think it's easier to think about it as a viewer watching them outside to be like, yes, oh, this is one of the big ones of the season, right? But to us, yeah, I think it's a trap to think about it like that because yeah, they're all stories and they're all human stories and they're all going to resonate with someone, I mean, we do these fan conventions and people come up and tell us their favorite episodes and it's a really varied response, and we got a lot of like Pickle Ricks, of course, and stuff, and Fearhole, right? But there are so many other episodes that really speak to people on a personal level because it's touched them in some way. So yeah, the prep for us that just goes into it is just getting into the characters' heads, living in the circumstances and seeing what comes out. That's all.
Having been in these roles for a couple of years now, do you feel like, and this is obviously for both of you as well, do you feel like you've taken any more ownership kind of like of Rick and Morty since season 7 to now season 8?
Absolutely, and I appreciate the question because I think that's what season 8 was about. Both with having sort of a little more luxury of time than we had for season 7. Season 7 was a time crunch when we jumped into our roles. It was so far along in production, we needed to hit a deadline, and we worked really hard to get that out on time. Season 8, we had a little more time to breathe, and so that provided some creative freedom and allowed us, I think, to warm up into these roles really well. And what we're seeing is, both with the writing and hopefully with the 30 versions of every line that we give in the booth, that there's a range and a depth to these characters that maybe we haven't seen before, or maybe it harkens back to previous moments, but we're really trying to flesh them out and bring ourselves to the roles. I think, we're always going in with the mindset of wanting to honor the characters and honor what's on the page. And then whatever ends up in the final version is the result of a huge collaboration.
Next question. So in episode 3 of this season, season 8, it's one of those classic episodes, and I say classic, I've been watching this since I was whatever, it's been like 10 years or so since I was a teenager, 15, I guess.
Wow.
And
Wow.
I mean, yeah, I've grown up with Rick and Morty essentially. But anyway, episode 3 in this season is one of those episodes where there's a million versions of Rick and Morty. And I was just wondering, like, from a voice acting perspective, how does that work? Because you're talking to each other, talking to yourself. Is there on the page like which version you are, or are you just kind of like, I don't know, word vomit's the bad phrase, but like word vomiting lines just over and over, not knowing which version you're playing at that time?
Oh no, it's that's a really good question. It's very clear. In the script, they will have, first of all, like say every Morty will have a different name: Arcade Morty, Doc Morty, Straw Tooth Morty. And they are also highlighted in different colors, which makes it really helpful for us. And I actually remember being like, oh yeah, like I can just kind of like I could try to just do this scene going bouncing back and forth. If it's like two Mortys talking to themselves, I can just go back and forth. And it's actually a lot easier for them if we just go through the whole script as one character, finish that, and then go through the whole script as again. I think it's just helps with like, keeping things straight in terms of recording takes and everything. But it's also so fun to see those in the script because then you get to go to the team, the directors, the producers, all the people the hundreds of people that work on the show and go, okay, so how do we want this Morty to sound? What's the energy of this Morty that makes him different from our typical Morty that we know or other Mortys that we've seen? It's just a fun process.
Yeah, particularly with that episode, that we were consulting with some of the writers. It was great, when developing the voice of Boss Hogg to have the writers in the room and say, okay, yeah, no, we love where this is going, or ooh, let's bring that back a little bit. And our job is just to provide options, but also to get the insight of what the writers were thinking of when they came up with a particular character, and when we see the early animatic versions, what the character artists have come up with for, say, a homesteader Rick. That the overalls and the gruffness informs my delivery. That's probably the most fun part of the job is seeing all the different versions that we can come up with.
Yeah, no, it's so great. I love that gimmick. I love when there's a bunch of them and they're all interacting and then it's just the action chaos. Everyone's getting shot. It's like, oh my gosh, what's happening?
Yeah.
So the series has been greenlit through season 12, which is kind of crazy to think. But how's season 9 going? Let's say in the present a little bit. Have you guys been recording that? When can we expect it to come out?
So good. It's going really, really well. And yes, we are recording it. Ian just wrapped his principal recording on it. I've got one more episode to get through. And it's a banger of an episode, I can say. I mean, really, the quality, the bar, it just keeps going up. I mean, seriously, at least in my personal opinion, you like season 7, best season I'd ever seen. Season 8 comes in, tops it. I think season 9 is gonna do it again because these episodes are just they're killer.
Yeah, certainly don't have any air date information for you. I wish we knew. They don't,
Oh.
they didn't even really tell us when 8 was coming out until close to it. So, we're as excited as everybody else is for the new episodes, and 100 Years Forever. Nine's going to build on all the really exciting stuff in 8. So tune in, catch up if you haven't yet. But yeah, we're moving along. I mean, we're in a pocket now where we've got a really good groove going with our team, and we're so grateful that they trust us with these roles, and they're happy with what we've come up with, and I think the fans will be really pleased with what they hear and see for season 9, particularly after the adventures of 8.
Oh
Yeah. Speaking of that groove, so Rick and Morty both have very recognizable like audio tendencies when it comes to like Rick's burping or Morty's like stuttering. How does that go in the audio recording booth? Because I feel like sometimes they are by themselves, and then other times it is part of the line delivery. Like it's like, oh, Morty's supposed to stutter through this, or Rick's supposed to burp as he says that. Like, what's that process like?
Ian's the king of burps.
I've gotten really good at them, and sometimes you'll deliver a world-ending burp and you'll stammer on the next word, and so it's an unusable take. That's why we give 30 versions of every single line. Yeah, I think we're still honing our process on stammers and burps and things like that. And so that keeps it fresh, and that's you'll get that improvisational tone that we all kind of crave, and it's a lot of fun to play with. They've given me freedom to burp whenever I need to in a session. Some versions call for it more than others. Not every version of Rick that we saw in episode 3, for instance, is a burper, at least not in those moments. So just trying to strike the right balance. But our job, to answer your question, is really just to provide options. We want to give all the options that they could for any line. I'm not joking when sometimes there's 20, 30 versions of a line by the end of it. And that's whatever ends up in the cut, whatever people end up hearing, there might be a cadence that we crave for one of these characters on a particular line, even a favorite take of mine that might not necessarily make it to the final, or the line's rewritten, and so work we did just changes because the script is changing, and that's just part of the collaborative process. Our job is just to give as many options as possible, and then whatever version of Rick shows up, we love.
One other question. I was kind of seeing some discourse online where Jerry's really been in he's gonna be in episode 4, I believe, and that's a little bit of a spoiler. But we won't air this obviously until like people kind of know this. But basically, Jerry's a prominent part in episode 4. But people are missing that. Like I was reading comments, I was able to see it early, and I was like, oh, he's coming. Like don't worry
Yeah.
about it. But is there anything else in the future too? Because then episode 5 kind of gets right back to Rick and Morty. Like, is there any more like more family B plot episodes coming down the pike?
We'll see some more Jerry even after 4. We'll see. Well, we'll see. No, we'll see everybody. We'll see some more Beth. We'll see some more Summer. Everybody's gonna get some more good stuff in season 8. It's I really think there's something for everyone in season 8. Whether you're a Beth, Jerry, Summer, Morty, Rick fan, whoever, Gene, whatever, whatever you like about Rick and Morty. I think season 8 is gonna scratch that itch.
It's so funny, and I know this being a fan myself for so many years, as you mentioned, you were too, David. When a season is currently airing, each episode it's almost as though you're living and dying by that one new
Yeah,
episode.
yeah.
It's I don't know if people are playing bingo with it and trying to scratch off as many tick as many boxes as possible of what every individual episode covers. But trust the writers because this season's got something for every Rick and Morty fan, and yeah, we will see our favorites, we will see our family. So there's a lot to look forward to in the back half of the season as well. But yeah, try to enjoy every episode for what it is because by the end of the season, you'll be craving 9. You'll have seen it all and want more.
Speaking of the last temptation of Jerry, episode 4 this season, there is a line in this episode that made me cackle out loud laughing. I'm going to read it out loud, and then I'm going to ask you guys the reason I want to bring this up is I want to ask you guys, is there ever a time when recording, do you just burst out laughing? Because this was the line that made me pushing the line. Speaking of the writers just pushing the line, doing Rick and Morty.
I think I know what line it is, but I want to hear it.
Rick says, and I can't do it. God, I do not want to say
Yep.
climate change on this show. I don't know which way Zaslav voted. That made me laugh so hard. So when you're reading this the first time, are you ever like, really? Are we actually going to say this? Do you ever start just like laughing to yourself?
Yeah, well, that line in particular, I absolutely cracked up. What's funny is that that's actually a rewritten line. There was several different versions that came before it. And I
They're
was
all hilarious.
it's lots of different versions. Yeah, half our audience will bail, or whatever. There's all kinds of versions of it, and because they had to do that for season 7 too. If there was a line that was, they had to. We had to say something about whale semen, and then we needed to get it as whale cum, whale jizz, whale sperm, whale, like whatever, whale spunk. There was whatever the network's going to end up going with, So we have to provide options. For that line in particular, though, yeah, I'm happy with where it's at.
Well, it breaks the fourth wall, which like of all the things Rick and Morty does, I feel like it doesn't always break the fourth wall. I felt this way as a fan for a long time, and I only have a couple more questions for you guys, but this one's just like pure fandom. There's some stuff like the Citadel, and like there's some elements where it's like I think you're my daughter, stuff like that, where if you're a longtime fan, you've been watching forever, you kind of understand there are some story arcs that like continue out through the seasons. But do you think that Rick and Morty is more about telling that story or almost coming up with the best next idea? Because that's how it comes across to me, where it's like you never really know what's coming next. Like the Easter episode I was just mentioning, so wildly creative to me and added such a fun little twist to the show.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, I think the best devices in storytelling are when if you can close it for a show like ours. I think if you can close a door and open 2 more or 3 more, or I should say portal, right? Then that just leaves you with more possibilities. For every story arc that's maybe been resolved, I put that in quotes. We've seen options for the story to splinter off into all different kinds of versions. Yeah, I think. Particularly with the new episode, the Temptation of Jerry, we might have some new takes on holidays, which is then introduced into the overall reality that we're playing in. So
Right.
it asks as many more questions as it might answer, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. Last question for both of you is just how has Rick and Morty changed your lives? You guys mentioned like conventions, going there. I mean, this is all pretty new. I mean, it's such like an established show. Like you were mentioning Ian, like being a fan before. Like, what's that impact been like?
It's been, I mean, obviously a dream come true, a whirlwind. It's, I mean, trust me, we felt every emotion that it's possible to feel under the sun during this process. I think the thing that I feel the most at the end of the day is just grateful that I get to be a part of a show that I was such a huge fan of for so many years. Grateful that I get to meet all of our wonderful fans as we do these conventions and travel all across the country and the world, and see how it affects people. Because, when we record this show, we're alone in a booth with a few people on the other side of the glass, but it's isolated, so to then months later meet people, see what the show means to them, hear how they watch it with their families or whatever, or it's how they met their partner or whatever. It's the only thing that them and their kid bonded over, whatever. It just fills my soul with such a joy, and I'm just so grateful because of that.